Dmitri had always felt at home in the wild. Raised in a small Alaskan town, surrounded by towering pines and endless snow, he grew up listening to the howls of wolves echoing through the mountains. As a boy, he'd spend hours with his parents hiking the forest trails, secretly hoping to catch a glimpse of one of those elusive creatures. There was something about them, their quiet power, their loyalty to their pack, that captivated him. Years passed, and Dmitri traded long hikes for college lectures. That's where he met Elsie, a quiet but fierce young woman with a love for photography and a laugh that made him feel like home. They fell in love fast, married even faster, and eventually returned to Dmitri's hometown with their two sons, Jack and Thomas. Now, as a father, Dmitri carried on the same tradition his parents had started. Every chance he got, he took his boys into the forest to explore, teaching them how to move quietly, how to listen, and, most of all, how to respect the wilderness. It was during one of those hikes, deep into a snowy winter, that everything changed. Jack, now 12, and Thomas, 9, were trudging behind their father, marveling at how the snow blanketed every branch and silenced every sound. Then, a cry. Not just any cry, a howl, long, mournful, and filled with pain. Dmitri froze. He'd heard plenty of howls in his life, but this one struck differently. He motioned for the boys to stay behind him and followed the sound. In a small clearing, partially hidden beneath the snow-dusted underbrush, lay a young wolf. Its paw was clamped inside a rusty steel trap. The creature whimpered and growled weakly, its eyes filled with fear and pain. Dmitri knew he had to act carefully. Wolves could be dangerous, especially when injured. But as he slowly stepped forward, speaking in calm, steady tones, the wolf didn't lunge. It watched him, warily. When he knelt down and extended a hand, it gave a hesitant lick, as if sensing that this man wasn't here to harm. With a deep breath, Dmitri reached for the trap. It creaked under pressure but eventually released with a snap. The wolf flinched but didn't bolt. It just lay there, breathing hard, paw swollen and bleeding. Most would have left it there. After all, it was a wild animal. But Dmitri couldn't. He looked at his sons, then back at the injured creature. "I'm not leaving it here," he said. "We're taking it home." Jack and Thomas stared at him, wide-eyed. "Dad, it's a wolf." "I know," Dmitri replied, "but it's hurt, and it needs help." So, with strength born of stubborn compassion, he lifted the limp wolf into his arms and began the long trek back through the snow. Hours later, exhausted and nearly frozen, Dmitri stumbled into town. After dropping the boys at home, he rushed straight to the nearest vet clinic. The staff were understandably nervous. Wolves aren't exactly typical patients, but Dmitri insisted. "Just look at the paw, please." To everyone's surprise, the wolf remained calm under Dmitri's voice. The vet examined the paw and sighed. Bruised, possibly torn tendons, but no fracture. "She's dehydrated and starving. Probably been stuck in that trap for days." The vet gave her fluids and wrapped the paw. "She'll live," he said, "but I'd recommend letting her rest before setting her free." That night, Dmitri made up a warm space in the garage, blankets, water, and some raw meat. The wolf lay still, but watched him with alert eyes. She didn't growl. She didn't try to run. Somehow, she knew. By morning, she was stronger. When Dmitri opened the garage, she limped to the edge of the forest, paused, and turned back. For just a moment, she held his gaze. Then she was gone. Weeks passed. Life returned to normal. But every now and then, Jack or Thomas would spot something near the trees. A flicker of fur, a pair of glowing eyes. The wolf hadn't gone far. She lingered at the edge of their world, as if watching over them. Then one day, she was gone. The boys searched the tree line every morning, but she didn't return. Winter thickened. Snowstorms came and went. And then, one afternoon, while Dmitri was at work, Jack and Thomas decided to go looking. They knew the rules. Never enter the woods alone. But they couldn't shake the worry. What if she was hurt again? What if she needed help? So, without telling their mother, they bundled up and slipped into the forest. At first, everything felt magical. The snow crunched under their boots. The air was crisp. But an hour in, they realized something terrifying. They were lost. No familiar paths, no footprints, just endless white. The sun began to dip behind the mountains. The The temperature dropped. Jack grabbed Thomas's hand. "We'll be okay," he said, but his voice trembled. They sat on a log, huddled together for warmth, tears threatening to freeze on their cheeks. Then, rustling. A pair of glowing eyes. Jack's breath caught in his throat, but it wasn't a bear or a stranger. It was her, the wolf. She stepped into the clearing slowly, tail low, ears forward. Jack stood, unsure. But when she came close and licked his glove, he knew. She remembered them. She turned and began to walk, pausing every few steps to look back. Jack nudged his brother. "She wants us to follow." So they did. Through the winding forest trails, through snowdrifts and shadows, for nearly half an hour. And then, a light. Their house and voices, their parents shouting their names. Jack and Thomas burst through the trees, into their mother's arms. Dimitri, frantic, swept them up, holding them so tightly they could barely breathe. And then, he saw her, standing just beyond the trees, watching, her eyes calm, her posture still. Dimitri stepped forward. "Thank you," he whispered. She blinked once, then vanished back into the forest. They never saw her again. But every time the wolves howled at night, the family would pause and smile. Because deep in the Alaskan wild, they knew one of those howls belonged to her, the wolf who had once been saved, and returned the favor when it mattered most. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life stories that remind us just how powerful kindness can be, even across species. And hey, would you have done what Dimitri did? Let us know in the comments below.